A warning posted on social media about the possibility of a stronger seismic activity has once again reignited the debate over whether planetary and lunar alignments can offer clues about earthquakes. The warning came just hours before powerful earthquakes hit Venezuela, drawing global attention to the work of the Solar System Geometry Survey. While these claims continue to generate widespread interest, they are not accepted by mainstream seismology, which says there is no established scientific evidence linking planetary alignments to the earthquakes. To discuss the basis of these forecasts, the criticism surrounding them, and what his research aims to show, we are joined by Frank Hoogerbeets, researcher at the Solar System Geometry Survey. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. And let me begin by asking, you warned of a stronger seismic activity before the Venezuela earthquake. What specific planetary and lunar alignments led you to issue that alert, sir?
When we have a convergence of geometry, this is like a moon aligns with Saturn and Neptune in a very short time. There can be seismic activity. And this is why I issued a warning, because based on my 10-12 years research, I recognize the patterns from the position when large earthquakes are more likely to occur. And the problem with mainstream science is they have not done this kind of research. So they do not look at the positions of the planets at the time of last. We have done this research. I've done the research in the last 12, and there is absolutely a very significant pattern of planetary alignments and lunar alignments in the solar system, just the earthquake occur.
So how do these planets trigger an earthquake on planet Earth? What works? What's the maths behind it?
The models that I use are based on the electron wave. They are based on gravity. The argument from science is all the gravitational force is weak and that the planet is far. But our focus from the beginning 12 years ago has always been on the electromagnetic force, and the specific planetary between the planets and the moon. They are harmonics of the electromagnetic wave. It is gravity.
So, are you saying that mainstream science does not understand this gravitational astronomy?
It is not gravity, it's electromagnetic. And that kind of research has never been done before. So at the SSG, we are to actually look at electromagnetic or light wave connection between the planets. And from our research, we can conclude that there is electromagnetic interaction between the planets and also with Earth. And when planets reach specific positions, the electromagnetic force builds up, and this affects Earth's crust, where the tectonic stress is critical. So it requires critical stress levels, a fault section like in Venezuela, that is at the tipping point. And when that is the specific planetary conditions, they do trigger the earthquake.
Can you define what is electromagnetic? How do you define electromagnetic? Because in space, gravity works. What is electromagnetic?
Electromagnetic, we have fundamental forces in the universe. The gravitational force is the weakest, and the electromagnetic force is much, much stronger. And we use the electromagnetic wave all the time. When people use their smart or other wireless connections, they use electromagnetic wave to transmit information. So we use it all the time, but we don't realize it. Now the magnetic force from the planets is much stronger, and they travel through space interruptedly. They reach Earth, they reach our atmosphere. They can excite electrons, the ionosphere, and this also affects crust.
So Frank, only the planets in the solar system can lead to earthquake, or gravitational electronic fields outside our solar system can also lead to earthquakes? Because if my understanding is right, we are surrounded by Earth cloud, we are, our solar system is within a bigger bubble.
Yeah, there may be influence from outside the solar system, maybe from stars like Regulus. This is in the constellation Leo. I have seen some correlation there, but I have to do more research to actually confirm that. For example, it looks like the largest earthquakes on the record favor specific alignments in our solar system with the constellation Leo. But I have to do more research to confirm that this is actually plausible. Solar system is a single system of its own. And for us humans, the solar system is huge, it's very large. But from a cosmic perspective, the solar is just like a grain of sand. It's really a matter of perspective. And it's very important to understand that electromagnetic waves, they travel easily and very fast through the solar from the sun to the earth, 8 minutes for light waves. And I encourage scientists to focus much on electromagnetic influence in the solar system, because it greatly affects geological processes on Earth.
Frank, can you tell us about which planets can cause earthquakes more frequently in Earth, and what sort of an alignment is required to cause that earthquake?
Well, if you look at the largest earthquake record, that was magnitude 9.5 in Chile in 1960 and 9.2 in 1964. Both earthquakes, they occurred when Mars, Mercury, and Uranus were in an exact alignment. And in 1964 as well, including Venus, that was a very rare quadruple alignment of 4 planets. And from my research, it turns out the planets mostly influencing seismic activity on Earth is Venus, next to the Moon. The Moon is very important, very influential, and Venus is also extremely influential. And large earthquakes, they tend to occur with a combination of the Moon, Venus, Mercury.
But why do you rule out heavier planets like Saturn and Jupiter?
When the Moon makes specific geometry, these are electromagnetic harmonics with Neptune or Jupiter. These are the large planets. In very specific geometry can also be increased activity. Yes, absolutely. For example, 1906. That was a very active year. For example, the San Francisco earthquake in 1906, but also magnitude 8.8 in Ecuador. This all happened when Uranus and Neptune on opposite sides in the solar system. And Uranus have traveled very slowly. So the next time that they are in opposite positions is in the 2070s. That's a long time still. And if you look at seismic activity in history, it appears that 1906 today is still the seismically most active year on record if you look at the large earthquakes. And this is directly connected to the positions of Uranus and Neptune. So yes, the positions of the outer planets, they are very influential for seismic activity.
You know, a lot of people would like to understand Uranus and Neptune are so far away. You know, they are not even considered as part of astrology, leave astronomy. They are so far away. And you are saying that they have a bearing on Earth's tectonic plates. How is that possible?
Well, if you realize that to very accurately calculate the position of the Moon, you have to include the perturbations. These are the influence of the planets on the Moon. You have to include the perturbations of Uranus and Neptune. So if you don't include the positions of Uranus and Neptune that influence the position of the Moon, and you try to the position of the Moon for 1,000 or 1,500 years ago, you will be off by many days. And this tells you that even Uranus and Neptune, they are far away, they influence the position of the Moon. And like in 1906, when Uranus and Neptune on opposite sides, greatly affect the position of the Moon. And so I think in this particular case, it's a combination of the electromagnetic force primarily, but also a little bit of the gravitational force combined that can trigger very large earthquakes.
And how come Moon and Venus are so important? I can understand Moon impacting the tides, but that's out of gravity. But earthquake, how come that?
It's difficult to understand, but you have to do the observational research to see that in many cases, the positions of the planets not favor the gravitational force, but they favor the electromagnetic force because the geometry that I are harmonic to the electromagnetic wave. Now, if I try to explain this, electromagnetic wave, it has an electric field and a magnetic field, and they are always at a right angle, 90 degrees. And this 90-degree property is very important. If you have induction Cook plate, it is the 90 degrees property of the electromagnetic wave. It's very simple. That 90-degree property, your induction Cook plate will not. And this also applies to the solar system. Venus has an induced magnetic field, and this ties to the 90 degrees angle. For example, with the Venezuela large earthquake just recently, Venus at a right angle, this particular 9 degrees, with Mars and Jupiter, and this converges with a lunar peak. And this triggered large seismic activity. I realize it is difficult to understand currently. Scientists, they need to focus specifically on the 90-degree property and the position of Venus. This is absolutely important because our statistics firm that the 90-degree position with Venus major influence seismic activity.
So basically you are saying that we on Earth, looking at the planets, can actually make a prediction if an earthquake will take place or not. But then how do we decide where the earthquake will take place? How do we get to decide that?
There are two major uncertainties, and that is the magnitude of the earthquake and also the location of the earthquake. Currently, it is not possible with the technology they have to determine the location of the next large earthquake. That is not yet possible. And also the magnitude is the seismic increase. How large an earthquake is going to be, that very much depends on how much stress is there in between the tectonic plates. And that is also something we cannot measure or determine reliably. So there is certainty, but what I do in my forecasts is I pinpoint the days that there is a likelihood of increased activity. Now, this can be a burst of stronger earthquakes, like higher 5 or 6 earthquakes, but with sufficient stress on a larger fault section, you can also have a magnitude 7 earthquake. And we are pretty good with determining the days are most critical, but we cannot determine the exact magnitude.
So how are you able to pinpoint that the earthquake is going to take place in Venezuela? How did you come to that conclusion? Okay, let me be very specific. How did you came to that conclusion?
It did not say will be an earthquake in Venezuela. What I said was that there is the potential activity, and I said that I think before the earthquake occurred.
No. What did you exactly say? What did you exactly say in context of Venezuela?
I did not mention Venezuela. In my post on X in Facebook, I said that there may be a larger earthquake, and it was just 9 minutes before the earthquake happened.
So, did you know where the earthquake would take place?
A large earthquake need to happen, but I didn't know where.
There is no science to decide, discover, find as to where the earthquake can take place?
Exactly.
So, how does it help the people? You know, if planet Earth is so big, you can say the earthquake is going to take place. Then how do you help people?
People are, the thing is, in earthquake regions, they can be alert when we are at very critical days. That's currently what possible, and that's already well beyond what science can do.
So, coming back to the entire issue, how do you feel when, a lot of people say that this is not science, this is hogwash? How do you react to this? When people say this is not science, this is wishful thinking.
I present them with the statistics. Statistics are a very reliable method in science to find relationships and to determine scientifically what or is not true. And I pinpoint to the statistics. They are public. People can look at the statistics, verify that they're correct. And also, just recently, I think 2 years ago, there is a peer-reviewed scientific paper from 5 scientists, and confirmed their research that planets do indeed have an influence on seismic activity. To my knowledge, this is the first peer-reviewed scientific paper actually confirming the influence of the planet. But the problem is, most researchers just simply don't look at the planets. And this is a mistake.
Why do you say this is a mistake? Why do you say this is
It
a
is a
mistake?
mistake. It is a mistake not to look at the planets. So you have to look at the planets. If you look at the position of the planets, that's a mistake.
Thank you so much for making time for us. A lot of people say that, this is contested. A lot of people don't believe in it, but the fact that you said and the earthquake happened, led to a sort of a flood of comments on Twitter, because the Venezuelan earthquake was devastating earthquake. Thousands of people lost their lives. Thousands of people have been displaced from their residential areas, because it wrecked the entire chain of cities in the Venezuela. So in a way, I would say the fact that you were able to call it out is something very, very important, and people need to put their mind as to how you were able to come to that conclusion. I thank you for joining me from Netherlands.